Welcome to What's Your Story, where we, Jamie Marco,
and Stan Brown,
delve into the extraordinary lives of everyday people.
Listen in as we uncover the unique tales that shape who we are,
one story at a time.
Hey, let's get ready to explore today's story.
Let's do it. Dad.
Hey, Miss Jamie, how are you?
Doing all right. I think my number, you meant to ask me what my number is, right?
I thought that was inherent and that was understood. It was a tacit understanding.
Okay. So I'm like a 7.75.
Is that
He's ready. Our guest is ready. He's here. He's ready.
is that above or below what you normally are?
I typically am fairly between like a 7 and an 8.75.
You know who you're talking to here. Come on, I've seen you at a 3.
Well, I have my moments, but
Oh,
on average, I'm like, yeah, believe me, I've had a 3. I've had ones when I'm like, I'm not living out of bed, but on average, I'm like a 7 to 8. Like, I don't ever think I get higher than 8.75.
well, I've always said it's better to maintain a constant number if you can.
Yeah.
7 or 8, whatever your number is, just keep it even. Don't get too crazy. Don't get too high. Don't get too low.
Yeah. I mean, like, I do say to people, if you're a 10 all the time, that's amazing and that's incredible.
It's a lie.
I mean, I'm never a 10 just because I'm a daughter and I worry about you, and mom.
That's nice.
And I'm a sister and I worry about my sisters. I'm a mother. I'm a wife, all these things. And so I worry about people.
That's a lot of worrying.
I know. And then I'm a human. So I worry about, everyday things happening in the world as well, too.
You know what worry beads are?
Worry beads?
Yeah. I should buy you some.
What are worry beads?
Well, that's another discussion.
Okay. Well, today we're meeting with somebody, which is kind of really interesting, is that I met him probably like maybe 14, 15 years ago, living in Chicago in totally different circumstances. And then fast forward to today, he lives down the street from me.
Come on, it's impractical.
No, totally true.
Impossible.
Right, 100% possible. So weird. Love what he does. He is like full on into the whole like AI and chat. And so we'll talk about that. But he's had a really cool career path as well.
Will we be talking to him or to his avatar today?
Oh, that's a good question when we come in. We should say,
Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
Oh, I like that. Should we let him in?
Do we have a choice?
No.
Who is this guy?
All right, here we go. We're gonna go with Rob Cressy is coming in. So it's funny because I know him as Robbie, but then he goes by Rob, but then he goes by Robbie, and then there he is. What's up, my friend?
Happy Monday. How you guys doing today?
See you, Robbo.
Your episode's airing on a Tuesday. We're recording right now. We are like full on in, but I love that like you're there. And I was just saying that I think that we met like what, maybe 14 years ago for the first time?
I think it's going to be longer than that because yeah, that's probably a good thing. I would say probably about 14 years ago because I was just trying to think of. I was in Chicago for 12 years. I've been here in Florida for 3, so that's 15 years. And yeah. I met you via your sister when I was living off of Racine in Belmont in Lakeview, which puts me to the very beginning of that journey.
Wow.
And you met each other on the street here in Greenville?
Actually, I kind of feel, oh no, what's really funny is, so listener, sorry, you're going to have to deal with us this first bit of connection, but I threw a networking event and his wife came to the networking. This is when I realized it. I think that's how we realized it, right? She came to the networking event. We started chatting and then somehow we put it together and I was like, wait a second, what? And then she really, I think that's when it happened, but is that right?
Something along those lines. Yes.
There you go. So, and like, literally we could have been in the same room right now. I almost invited you over for this, but it's a madhouse over here. So I could just literally probably I can't throw that far, but listener, he is like maybe 10 houses away.
Side note, are you recording right? Oh, there's the little recording, but being a host myself, I always like to double check to make sure you're recording on your end.
I know. And you are, and you have like quite the setup. So, okay, before we get started, we love to ask this question. You may have heard me ask it before. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a day you should not have gotten out of bed, which I feel like you don't really ever let yourself have those days because you're always out running or walking the dog or walking your kid. Like I always see you out. But anyways, a 1 to a 10 where it's the best life you've ever lived. You don't have a worry in the world, which is almost like being superhuman. to be a 10, right? Like that's kind of hard. But what is your number?
9.1.
Ooh, okay. What would it take for you to go from 9.1 to 9.35, 0.25 higher?
So when I take a question like that, the framing of it isn't because that I don't know what it's like to experience that side of it. I've also just known that, for example, 3 weeks ago, I was at a 3 day transformational coaching conference
Mhm.
where all of a sudden I'm creating miracles and shooting rainbows everywhere. That was a 10 out of 10. So it's like that's one of those instances in which you've ported yourself to a place for 3 days. You're living in that zone of genius and that excellence. And to me, that's why there's a gap in that. I wouldn't say it's realistic to be like, yes, every single day I'm living in that 3 day transformational experience. What would take me from a 9.1 to a 9.3 is actually getting out of my own way,
Oh, we'll have to talk about that. That's interesting.
because the only person who can control my own happiness is myself. Right. So it's like, what are the things that I would love to be doing that would elevate this? And of course, it's all completely in my control. So it is nothing that anybody else would do. It's more of a what would I be doing that would elevate me to living that more.
Now, since you've been avoiding the answer, what is the answer?
Well, you're going to quickly learn how I get down, how I think, how I live. I show up this way every single day because I'm no longer working in a call center. So
I mean, so like that's a thing, right? So you weren't always like you've always been you, but you weren't always doing what you're doing here. And you weren't, and our podcast isn't about what you do. It's about like you as a person. And so I know a little bit about your life and where you come from. I know more about, where you are now because obviously we're neighbors and I see you here. But I'm curious, like, tell us a little bit about you growing up, Rob growing up when you were Robbie, maybe then. I go back and forth. I was saying, I'm like, I call him Robbie, I call him Rob, I'm not really sure. But tell us a little bit about you growing up and how it came to fruition of what you do now. Because there's a little bit of probably like your history that brought you here.
there's two steps in this journey that are very big ones. So as a kid, I grew up in Pittsburgh and I loved all things sports. So I was born in 1980, and being a kid growing up in the 80s, everybody loved Michael Jordan. My mom's side of the family is from Chicago. I lived in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh didn't have a basketball team. So I was a Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan fan. And of course, the Bulls won tons of championships. And living in Pittsburgh, they only raise you one way in Pittsburgh, and that's as a diehard everything Pittsburgh fan. So I watched Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr and the Penguins win 2 Stanley Cups. And the reason that this is important is because I love sports. I loved sports my entire childhood. I played every sport growing up. And the reason this is of relevance is because when I graduated college from Miami of Ohio in 2002, I had a marketing degree, and my dream was to work for an ad agency, being creative and brainstorming and coming up with ideas, right? That's the vision of what I wanted for my life. But the reality was the complete opposite. I was unemployed for a year and a half with no job. I lived off my credit card. I was dead broke, as broke as you could be leaving college. I'm in negatives there. And finally, I got my very first job at a Fifth Third Bank call center in Cincinnati, Ohio, making $10 an hour, slinging home equity loans inbound. I had a computer with no email and no internet access. I
Wow.
was Peter from Office Space. I would show up 7 minutes late because the trigger was 8. That's when you were late. So I could get under there, and I would leave 7 minutes early because I hated my job. I hated that life. And I did that. And through the next decade of my life, I either got a job that paid more money or had a closer commute. So I was just straight trading time for money. So I lived a decade of my life knowing what it's like to not live your dreams, and quite frankly, being the opposite of your dreams. While all of this is going on, I had one dream. All I wanted to do was talk about sports. That was it. So if I sat there and it's like, man, Rob, you can do anything. It doesn't matter if you get paid or not. I was like, I would do anything to be able to talk about sports for a living. So I would create sports blogs, and I'm dating myself, obviously, and I would just write about sports for free with this dream for a decade until I got to a point where, as my journey accelerated. I actually got very good at digital advertising sales, but I did not wake up every single day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. So despite the fact that I was getting paid $250,000 a year by the time I was 26 to 30, I didn't wake up every single day looking to do it. And I said to myself, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. So I cut the cord, burned the boats, and went to $0 overnight to go all in on my dreams of getting paid to talk about sports for a living.
All right, you got to hold the phone there. So first of all, 26 to 30, making, a quarter of $1 million a year. The majority of Americans don't make that throughout their lifetime. And it's so interesting to hear. And you were working, where were you working when you were doing that?
I was at Career Builder in Chicago, and then I left there, started my own online ad sales brokerage, which was my first foray into entrepreneurship. So I was either 26 or 27. And then a company reached out to me, legacy.com, the world's largest online obituary website in the United States. And they essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the details, hey, Rob, we have 300 million ad impressions a month and nobody's ever been able to monetize this because it's a freaking obituary website. And I was like, cool, I can sell anything. Let's go. And I wrote my own ticket and I helped them monetize what they were doing. And little did I know that, but that journey ended up bankrolling my dreams.
It was kind of like being on the death train.
Well, 100%. And here, you guys are going to love this because here's the framing for why I am how I am now. Because not only did I live a large majority of my life not doing what I loved and the furthest away from my dreams, I was then selling advertising on an obituary website. So when I left and I quit to go all in on myself, I said, it is impossible that there's anything else that'll be harder than what I just did because I just successfully sold advertising on an obituary website for 2 years. Therefore, whatever I choose to do next, oh, baby, I'm all in. It's not harder than what I just did.
I mean, who's advertising on a site like that? Like, really, what kind of, I mean, I feel you're like my dad. Like, you guys are incredible in sales, and I feel like you could sell at Eskimo Ice, but what kinds of companies advertise on a legacy? I mean,
so this is going to be sort of like inside baseball for this, but you're selling on a demographic because you go step one, who is on an obituary website? It was an older demographic. And then step two becomes, all right, cool. So we want to find advertisers that want to target older demographics. And with that in mind, flowers are logically. So if somebody's going to an obituary website, what are the tertiary things up there? You're like, all right, well, flowers, they might be traveling somewhere. So is it going to be hotels? Like I remember like La Quinta Inn was one of the big advertisers I landed back in the day, something like that. And then the other one, and this is why I seized the opportunity, was they were at zero. So if I just took this from, let's call it $1 per thousand impressions to $1.25. So I had relationships with ad networks back in the day that I was like, listen, I can get your advertising monetized from $1 to $1.25. Cool. We've seen that lift right there. But that ended up being the blessing of what I saw. But then I also, being forward thinking, got out before everything changed, because here's what ended up happening. So around that time, the internet went from desktop only advertising to here comes the iPhone. So now we're watching ad inventory go from desktop 95%, 5% mobile to the shift becoming 70-30, 80-20 mobile to desktop. The problem became mobile is significantly harder to monetize because you've got no real estate on this phone. You can go to desktop, you can throw big banners, stuff all over the place. So I saw that. And then a second thing ended up happening with the rate of technology advancing. There's these things called DSPs, demand side platforms, to where they said, oh, well, you don't have to worry about buying a demographic just from legacy.com. You can buy any specific demographic from any website ever, and we'll deliver it for you. So if you want males 60 to 80, you don't have to go to legacy.com. We'll give it to you run of internet. So now the cost of the way to do it went from, let's call it $10 to buy from me to do $2 to buy from them into perpetuity. And I was like, this is going in the wrong direction. I'm out.
Oh my gosh. So then it led you to your dream job. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so here is the second point of this. So step one, Rob's dream of getting paid to talk about sports for a living. So now, and I almost think of this as like BC and AD. It's like before Christ, after that, right? Because
After death,
why does religion always come into this?
just how, because one thing died and another thing popped back up, right?
Resurrection.
100% resurrection.
I
So
have met because they've been at our house for Halloween. You have met him before. Continue.
so so often people will be like, well, tell me about what it's like to leave your job and go all in on something. Like, was it hard? They make this big thing, and I get it. You're going from safety to completely on your own. But for me, it was a piece of cake because I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. So I went to zero, no clients, no website, no revenue, no nothing. And I remember that.
You probably
What was that?
probably had like a cushion from making that much money at that age.
Well, I did, but then you're sitting there at zero. So you're used to, let's call it 20 grand paychecks. And then the next day you wake up and you're looking at $0 paychecks for as long as it takes until you figure out entrepreneurship. And I sat there, and on the very first day, that very first morning, and remember, I was not this current person that you are seeing right now. I'm somebody who's done the work for 12 years as an entrepreneur, a high performer, somebody who's into personal growth and development. But that very first morning, I woke up and there was nobody to tell me what to do. When do I wake up? What do I eat? Do I go to the gym? Do I call any clients? And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Everything is on me. And for a lot of people, oh my God, everything's on me. No, I was like black and white to color. I was like, holy smokes, can you believe I can do anything I want in my entire life? And here's the thing. This blows my mind, and I say this all the time. I cannot believe I lived 30 years of my life and not a single person or educational institution, K through 12, 4 years of college and a decade of corporate America, no one ever told me the term self-awareness. I'd never in my life heard that word. And it wasn't until that very first morning, looking back on this, that I became self-aware, because I realized I was in charge of not only everything that I do, but everything I think and how I show up every single day. And if you go from not self-aware to self-aware, that is like a completely different human. So once this ended up happening, I asked myself a simple question. I was like, all right, well, what are all the people doing that I aspire to be like? So I audited the success habits of the most successful people in the world, the people that were running brands, running agencies, living in the world of sports. So I started to see these themes coming up over and over again. I'm signing up for Inc. magazine or Fast Company. Jamie, you know that world, right? It's just sort of like the, you can be better. Here's what's happening with business. So I'm slowly starting to understand this. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over again. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. I, no joke, heard it 25 times. Guess how many books I was reading a year? Zero. I'd never read a single book in my entire life for pleasure, for learning, or for anything. And eventually, after 25 times, I was like, listen, how many times do I have to learn this before I actually implement this? And if something is important enough, you will always find time to make it happen. Cool. When is there always time? For me, the answer was first thing in the morning. So for the last 12 years, the first thing I've done every single day is read a book for 30 minutes right out of the gate, because it guarantees I'm better today than I was yesterday. And the very first domino for me in my journey of high performance was adopting a growth mindset. And I saw reading on the other side of my dreams. Therefore, if I wanted to be like these CEOs and high performers, then I had to read every day. And if it's that important, then I'm just going to do it very first. So there's no excuse for why that didn't happen. And that's domino number two. I adopted a growth mindset. So slowly, when I became self-aware and then adopted a growth mindset, I rinsed and repeated that every single day for 12 years in a row, first thing in the morning.
Where does that, I mean, like, listen, okay, that the willpower, I don't know if that's the right word to do that or not, the discipline, but discipline. Where does that come from? What was Rob like as a kid? Did you have that? You said you played sports, so were you the one that was out there? You talk about Michael Jordan, talk about being in sports, probably Wayne Gretzky. They say that, you miss 1,000% of the shots you don't take, and they were the ones that were always going out and practicing. And Kobe Bryant, like these athletes that practice so hard to get to where they are. They don't just wake up and they're naturally going to be excellent. Some of them are, but they had to practice. Was that mindset with you when you were playing sports growing up, or did that come out of the need?
Never, none of this. I was zero competitive. So my dad growing up, very little athletic skill, 100% competitive, right? So if he and I are playing, I am significantly better athletically, but I didn't have any competition. I didn't have any competitive drive at that time. So I love to play basketball, but winning and losing wasn't necessarily a thing for me. But my dad, on the other hand, boom, he would beat me because he would do whatever it would take to beat me. So it was interesting because I'm a completely different human than that right now. I'm extremely competitive because I see competition differently. For me, it's a one of one. My only competition is myself, and I have a desire to be the best version of myself every single day in every single situation, because this is, as I call it, a mindset, a lifestyle, and a way of being. So I show up this way to be my best. So now anytime I do something, I'm like, I'm going to win because that's what I do. I win at everything. So the athletic side of Rob caught up with the high performing mindset side of Rob, but it took 12 years to do so. So once I layered in reading, then you just slowly start hearing these other inches. So my very first book being Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then you hear about some guy named Tony Robbins, or a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, or Grant Cardone, or Ed Milet. And you just like, oh my God, the new world to play in, new world to play in. And you just slowly start learning inch, 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 inch. So now you hear about this thing called meditation. I'm like, that's way too woo-woo for me. Till I hear it 38 times. I'm like, I'll give it a try. Cool. So now you read, and then meditation. And then you hear, yeah, most CEOs are waking up at 5 a.m. to get more accomplished, and then they work out. I'm like, well, crap, I'm not doing that either. And slowly but surely, like stacking Lego blocks or building a house, I turned myself into a high performer, one habit at a time, because it created me into the better version of myself that would build the fortress for me, because I had such big dreams. And I was willing to do whatever it took to make my dreams happen, because I knew what it was like to live a decade not that way.
I mean, you must be exhausted.
No, it's completely effortless. And that's the perspective. And this is my coaching 101. Because do you think I wake up in the morning to go read and it's like, oh my God, it's like shuffling rocks. Oh, I've got to read this book right now. I can't believe this thing that's going to change my life and give me everything. No. So it's like, this is where you're doing things unconsciously on a world-class level that nobody else does. And I don't even have to think about it, because it just becomes part of who you are, right? Because it's not hard to read once for 30 minutes, right? Well, now we're going to adopt a micro mindset of one, 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 one. I stack ones over zeros. So a morning routine starts with one thing, and then you're like, cool, I did that for a little bit, and then you stack another and stack another. And here's a simple example of this. So when I first started this entrepreneurial journey, I was waking up at 7:30 in the morning, and you hear the average CEO wakes up at like 5 a.m. or something. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to start waking up at 5 a.m. Well, that lasted about 4 days. Why? Because you miss 2.5 hours of sleep. If you go from going to bed at 11:30, waking up at 7:30 to 11:30 to 5 a.m. You're like, I'm a zombie. This is a no for me, dog. Well, instead, in some of these things, I either learned them or I caught them, or just the creative side of me. I was like, well, improvement doesn't have to mean 2.5 hours. Improvement can be 3 minutes. So the way that I went from waking up at 7:30 in the morning to 5 a.m. was 3 to 7 minutes at a time. So I would wake up at 7:30, and then I'd set my alarm for 7:27 for a week, and you don't miss 3 minutes. And then once I did that for a week, I'd be like, oh, well, I'll wake up at 7:21 the next week. And then you don't miss those 3 minutes. And 3 to 7 minutes at a time over 10 years, it just went from 7:30, dink, 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 to now were the mental edges. So once you start getting, what was that?
Still go to bed at 11:30 at night.
No. With a kid, you gotta be kidding me. This is 0%.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is single raw back in the day. So
Okay.
then I'm looking for a mental edge on everything, right? So I would wake up at 6:59 instead of 7 o'clock or 7:01. Why? Because I'm waking up in the sixes. So now, from an identity standpoint, I'm someone who wakes up in the sixes. If I wake up at 6:29 instead of 6:30, I'm closer to the fives than I am the sevens. So now here comes the high performance mindset, inch, 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 inch. And you just slowly back that thing down to where it's not hard. It just becomes who you are. And you build this lifestyle for yourself because of who it creates you to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had my friend David Havasi on. You met him once. You've met him a couple times around Halloween when you've been here. And he was talking about when he was a little kid, his mom used to have him listen to Zig Ziglar all the time. Like he was putting, these were cassette tapes. He was putting cassette tapes in and listening to Zig Ziglar, and it just totally changed his way of thinking. And it was really interesting. I don't know if you heard his episode or not, but really interesting about how there is the power of that. And when I'm hearing you speak, I know that by just reading, right? Just reading, even, right now I'm reading Mel Robbins' High Five book. And just by, which you didn't mention any women motivational speakers, by the way. So hopefully you've read some of the relative. No, good. So I'm reading Mel Robbins, and it's so true. Like, even if you and I sat at Barnes and Noble the other day and I read for 15 minutes. And in the 15 minutes that I read, it's amazing what it's like this trigger. It really does set off neurons in your brain when you read one thing, and how it's like, oh, wait a second, I love that. That connects to here and that, and then it's inspiring to have you just do something else. It's really incredible how reading is such a powerful tool.
Well, not just that, your journey really is, because we're seeing the man you are today, but what I admire even more is that you actually adhere to one of my core principles in adjusting your time clock to the value of low goal setting. Rather than jump and say, I want to wake up at 5, do it in small increments, because you can accomplish that. You feel good about yourself, and you've satisfied. So low goal setting, once again, it works.
I know, maybe you'll be the forward of our book.
Yeah, if you focus on the micro, those stack up, right? So my day is a series of ones over zeros, but most people live in the land of zero. Their fears, judgments, self-limiting beliefs, or the I cannots versus, all right, can I do 11 push-ups instead of 0? Why? Because 11 times 365 is going to be 3,000 push-ups, but no one thinks that, oh, if I do 11 push-ups today, that it's actually going to compound. And there's a book that changed my life called The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. And one of the things he said is the reason most people don't achieve their dreams is they just don't spend enough time with them. So the average person once a year sets a New Year's resolution. High performers, we read our goals once a day minimum, 1 versus 365. Which of those two people do you think is going to have a better chance of making their dreams happen? Once you understand that, you go, oh, well, let me just apply. And this is sort of a framework that I created. Number 1, the power of intention. Hey, I want to do this thing. Number 2, the power of awareness. All right, cool. If I'm setting this, now let me be aware of this, because number 3, the power of consistency. Right? You leverage those 3 things, you can do everything. So now you just start stacking that as a framework for yourself.
So I love that. And it's amazing. Your energy is obviously very infectious. You are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You also had at some point, and I don't know the background here, something called like Bacon Sports or Bacon. What was that?
Yes. So that was the thing. Right around when you and I met, well, exactly during it, so me going all in on my dreams, there was a mentor who said something to me. He goes, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. So I was like, cool. How do you get paid to talk about sports for a living? And this is before the current media is what it is. Well, you should host a podcast. You should learn how to be a host and be on camera. You have to learn audio and video editing, social media marketing, brand building, throwing events. Essentially, my dreams were on the other side of learning how to create a media company around myself. So I self-taught myself all of these skills to hopefully one day get paid to do this, because no one was ever going to pay me to talk about sports for a living unless I was talking about sports for a living. And I found it, air quotes, easier to build a media company than it was to get a job at ESPN. So I'll just make myself the client. And We created thousands of articles, videos, podcasts, and social media marketing. I'm living in Chicago off of North Avenue at the time, and it just so happens right across the street from me, Second City, the
Yeah.
greatest comedy center in the world. So I then learned the skill set of improv and comedy writing for 4 years, not to become a comedian, but to apply it to what I was doing from a marketing and content perspective. So Bacon Sports was originally a sports comedy blog all around creating original content because I was so good at what I did and I learned from the best. I can do this with my eyes closed. But here becomes the challenge. I came from the world of digital advertising. Remember how I said I saw everything was going in the wrong direction? Well, guess how publisher websites monetize? Digital advertising. I just left that world because it's going in the wrong direction. So I built my dreams on a platform that was not going to monetize via advertising revenue, but that did not mean I knew what we were going to monetize. So after 3 years of doing this nonstop, I was like, who doesn't need to monetize via banner advertising? And the answer was brands. So I turned it from a sports blog into a sports marketing agency where we helped brands market to sports fans through creative storytelling. Because who better to help a brand market to a sports fan than the guy who's dedicated his entire life to creating sports content? So that then led me on a journey of running a sports marketing agency for the next 7 years.
Wow. All right. So here's some rapid fire for you. Sports fan, yes, but what's your favorite sport?
So my favorite sport would be football. Growing up in Pittsburgh, I'm a Steelers fan and I love all things, everything football. My favorite sport to play is basketball. I love basketball. I still play basketball.
All right. Favorite athlete?
Ever Michael Jordan, without doubt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see what else. You have another question?
No.
It's so cool when you talked about Second City. I don't know when you did it, but I did the Second City course as well too, and it's so phenomenal to be able to have that in a city like Chicago to where you can go and you can learn. How much of that training are you utilizing today, and is it impacting what you do today?
Invaluable. Of things that I could not recommend enough, take an improv class. It will change your life forever. And certainly, Jamie, with what you and I both do as speakers, whether it's a podcast on stage or for teams, or in the case of sales, your ability to listen, to react quickly, to take something that you have no idea about and be able to be quick on your feet. Right? It's like, give me a fruit. And they're like, watermelon. You're like, oh my God, I've got this big watermelon. Give me the wheelbarrow. Right? So all of these are completely transferable skills. And so much so that I use the term yes and in a way that it's like a verb now. And I'm like, Jamie, let me yes and you real quick. Right. And people understand what that means because foundationally, this became a core value of mine that I am here. And even with this podcast episode here, to be champions for each of you, to deliver the best, most value driven podcast in the most loving way possible. Because if we're on stage together, we're all in together. So, boom, now we're just yes anding our ideas and creating an amazing experience. And it's something that for a lot of people, they're going to allow the fear of, oh my God, I don't like being on stage, or I don't know what to say, or I'm not that funny. It's all misplaced focus, right? You go there because all of those things are going to get thrown in the trash because it ends up just becoming listening and having a conversation.
I had this really great conversation so I was in an improv show many moons ago, Tony and Tina's wedding, and I was Tina. I don't know if you've ever seen the show. It was actually in Chicago on Wells for a while. It's about an Italian couple who gets married, but as an audience member, you become part of the wedding party. And I tell you this because my director at the time, now she lives here. She works for a not-for-profit, and I'm doing some work with her on the leadership side. And we were talking about improv. We were talking about as kids how we were very sarcastic, very sarcastic, this and that, and how sarcasm, though, in the workplace can be a cancer. It just really can. And I remember I told her a story about how I learned very quickly at Second City about how sarcasm is not funny on stage. And where I did something in the room and I was called about it. It's kind of like when you're going blue, like don't go blue and say bad words, but it was really interesting. And so it's not only about learning how to be funny, but it's learning about how to be intentional about the things that you do, how what you say really does impact the results that you get on stage. And it's just, I mean, I'm with you. It is anyone, if you are living in Chicago or if you're thinking about going to Chicago or if you just want to go to Chicago, they've got courses that last months. They've got courses that last, they think they do workshops, but you're right. You're spot on with it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you that, and it's a skill that I appreciate humor now because it's harder to have clean, good, well thought out humor than it is lowest common denominator of going blue. And I knew just with the way that you said that, I was like, oh, she gets it. Because if you use the term blue, it's the first thing that you learn. People who fail at improv try and be funny, or they just try and go blue because that's what they think is funny. But what you quickly realize is, and this ends up becoming foundational for what I've become as a coach. As a coach, is the power of language,
Mm.
because your ability to speak something into existence that tells me the story of everything, right? So sarcasm is true as well, but there's always a subtext in everything, right? So are we uplifting others or are we tearing people down? And to me, that's where your language is so powerful, because abracadabra, I create as I speak. So your ability to speak things into existence will dictate the story that you tell yourself in your head. What you tell yourself in your head will create your actions. Therefore, what you speak ends up making your dreams come true or not.
Yeah, so true. We meant to ask you this in the beginning because I know that now you're really leaning into some of the artificial intelligence that's happening in the world. Are you really Rob right now, or is this a avatar?
I am robot Rob.
I mean,
No, and it
like the people, like they just posted a video the other day. I mean, it's an older woman, and they were saying how you can manipulate AI to look as if it's a real person. There's different ways to catch it, but tell us a little bit about how your influence got into AI and where that is right now. Because I think it's people are really very curious about what's real, what's not real, and how you even know.
Okay, so what I'm about to say, I'm going to encourage everyone to listen with very big intention because it can change the next decade of your life. Because I am world class at the world of AI, but also the perspective that I come to the table with. So I first started using ChatGPT the first week it came out in beta, and I believe it was November 2022. And within the first minute of using it, I felt like I used the internet for the first time. And I was like, oh, I'm all in. I see what the next decade of business is going to look like. I have the gift of being forward thinking. I did it with content and podcasting, and then I see it again. And so many people would be like, if I was only there when Facebook or Instagram or YouTube was invented, I would make so much money. I would go all in. And I'm like, this is that thing there. So I didn't have to be convinced that Chat GPT and AI is for me. I saw where the future was going because I legitimately couldn't believe it was real. I was like, I'm already a master creator, prolific at what I do. And you're giving me this thing that's $0. It's now $20. $0. I was like, let's go. So I then went in with the mindset of, let me see if I can break this. What's possible? And in doing so, and you'll hear this often from me, I turned myself into my own client. I was like, let's go next. So I started pushing the limits of what's possible. And naturally, because I'm a go-giver and I'm a coach and I'm an entrepreneur, I just started sharing what I was doing with ChatGPT. Hey, because nobody even knows what they're doing anywhere, right? So I Googled ChatGPT coach, ChatGPT mastermind, ChatGPT course. Guess what I saw?
Nothing.
Zero. Could you imagine being there and searching YouTube course, YouTube mastermind, YouTube coach, and there not being a single thing on the entire internet? And I was like, let's go all in, all my chips on the table, all in, because I see where this is, because I've already built the foundation of being prolific at brand building and content creation, being prolific at personal growth and development, because that's what entrepreneurship is, the greatest personal growth and development program known to man. And now here's AI and Chat GPT. And for me, there's some things that immediately separate me from everybody else in the world who uses it. Number one, I'm not romantic about this. I immediately saw this from the lens of business growth. So there's going to be the people with the pitchforks who are like, it told me George Washington went to the moon and that's wrong. So this thing sucks. I'm like, irrelevant. How do I turn $1 into $1.50? All I care about is business growth. That is it. That is it. If it's inaccurate, that's on me because I'm not using it in a way where it can support me. Because you could say, write me a social media strategy for using 60-second or less short form videos on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn that I can batch record in 3 hours a week. So very specific, very detailed. It's not going to say George Washington went to the moon. It's going to give you world-class marketing tips, tactics, all of that stuff there. So immediately I just turned that into a group coaching program and one-on-one coaching to say, hey guys, here's how we're using this. If you want to start leveraging AI, come to me and I'll help serve you. And I've been doing that 2 years full time. And it's the number one driver of my business. But here's a very important part. I believe in human first AI, meaning it is our co-pilot. I am the leader. So I call this the human AI sandwich. So anytime I create, it starts with me and my idea. What do I want to create? It's the human layer. Then I co-create and I collaborate with my assistant. And one of the tips I'll give is talk to ChatGPT like it's an employee. So if you literally thought of it as your employee, you would never let your employee just go and overrun you. No, you are in charge. So if you're in charge as a CEO or a president, you're going to give very clear instructions. You're going to give a lot of detail. You're going to be very specific and you're not going to overwhelm it. You're not going to say, write me a book in 4 seconds. Why does this thing suck? It's garbage. No, you'd be like, hey, we want to write a book. In order to write a book, we need to create an outline for our book. Let's outline 20 chapters based around this theme. So now it's a thinking process because systems scale in business, and the same is true with how you think about using AI and ChatGPT. So because of this, it is now the ultimate co-collaborator with me or for you that has an unlimited ceiling. So the better the questions, the better the outputs. So for each of us here, the only limit is our own thinking. So I'm constantly saying, what are you not asking ChatGPT to do? Or take what's in your head and get it out of your head. And in the course of doing this for 2 years, I'm on a world-class mastery level for literally anything you can imagine with AI and ChatGPT because it's possible.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've been showing you some stuff how to do it, but I'm like scratching the surface of things, but it's amazing. So, okay, so, it sounds like every decade of your life, there's been a new something, right? You have definitely, every decade, you are a couple years away from turning 50 and
Well, we'll say more than a couple of years.
5 years, 5 years, 5 years, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Is that math right? 5 years away? Yeah.
6 years, yes. 5, in between 5 and 6. Not that it matters.
So what, I mean, like ultimately you said you wanted your dream job, you got that, you started doing that. What is, what's the dream for you next? Like what is it that
He's in it.
I mean, you're in it now, I know, but like he is a high achiever. He is someone who,
Well,
he's got to have something on.
he went from an underachiever as a child to an overachiever as an adult.
Yeah.
And
Well, you guys are catching me. It's a very interesting time in my life because it's a great time for that question because back to that transformational coaching conference that I went to there. And so I walked into that conference as an entrepreneur, a coach, and a master creator. And I left that conference the leader of a global movement.
Oh.
And I experienced some things all around elevating my identity and who I am and my state of being. Not that I was playing small because I always play big, but my identity, the ceiling got chopped off to where there's an unlimited thing. And one of the people there who is one of, if not the most powerful creators in the world, said some things to me that changed my life, saying, Rob, you are one of, if not the most powerful and humble people I've ever met in my life. And you have the ability to change the world with your voice and help raise the consciousness of the world. You can lead a global movement. And I heard that, right? Just sort of walk into that thing and you're like, whoa. And I was like, grabbed it and I was like, let's go. So to me, that's what into perpetuity looks like is I'm now a leader of a global movement. And now it's like, well, what do you do as the leader of a global? So now the
Yeah.
how race,
Our job description for that one.
right? Is that you're thinking the same thing that I did? I'm like, cool, I'm in. And then once again, now I'm at zero of leader of a global movement. I'm looking around and I'm like, so what am I supposed to do now? So once again, I'm like, all right, ones over zeros. Let's chop this tree down. And I was like, well, what are some other movements out there? Because as a brand builder and somebody who's very articulate with my language, I know the power of clarity. So I was like, I want to believe this. I want to embody this. I don't want this to be some sort of thing that I'm just bolting on. Like I'm in. So I wanted this to be very clear and concise. So I said, what's my one word I'm known for? So one of the things in branding can be whether you're Mel Robbins, like you said, of the women's book, of that, for her, it's 5-second rule, right? That Mel Robbins 5-second rule. Boom. She's known for a thing. A lot of people, it can be one word. So I was like, what's that word for me that I want to be known by? And it's heart. Heart is the word that I'm going all in on, which is kind of ironic given that I'm all in on AI. And that's the beauty of it, because I see where the world is about to go over the next decade with AI innovation, automation, outsourcing. What is going to be less or what is going to be missed? Human connection. Because we're going to be able to have the robots do things for us in a way to where it's like, why do I need to jump on a podcast? Rob's AI avatar can just come and our avatars can just have a conversation with us. And Rob and Jamie are just going to build our businesses and we don't even have to talk to each other. Right?
It's going to happen.
Of course. So it's going to happen. So where am I putting my chips? Heart. AI. So now I look at the trifecta of what I do. AI, self-development, and building a brand. Human first AI. Cool. We're not outsourcing what we do to the robots. We're leading with our hearts first. It's very different and unique to be human first in the way that you use AI, because everybody else is just going to say, write me a marketing strategy and put it on my blog post and there's my SEO. Then you think about your self-development. And I'm like, boom, your ability to show up every single day, wanting to be the best version of yourself, leading with your heart, loving your life, loving what you do. Boom. Piece of cake. I live that. Number 3, brand building. And Jamie, you know this because you are this. The best people in the world who create impact, what do? They lead with their heart. You can feel you when you're on stage, right, Jamie?
Yeah.
Right? So now I backed this thing in, dink, dink, dink. So my movement, and this is version 1.0, is all about creating from your heart.
I love it. And believe me, I mean, I have these napkins that I have, and it says, I forgot how to human. And the fact that we're selling those is true because people have forgotten how to human. Like they really have. So I think that's an incredible mission to be a part of. And I am here to help support you however you can because I'm all about, I'm all about connections. So.
Robbo, question. We agree that AI today is kind of like the collective intellect for the world, okay? And that's at this early stage. If we extrapolate into the future, I mean, can it become sentient, thinking for itself?
Yeah, yes. So I think that the question like this becomes the second or third level thinking around it. Like, yes, and then if, right? So let's take that to it because this conversation, everyone very quickly goes to, well, all of a sudden it's gonna be some doomsday thing and the world is going to blow up, right? And to me, while that's an awareness and I can see that that's something that could happen, it's also something that I'm not concerned by because I'll deal with it if it happens, right? Because if the world blows up because of AI, crap, there's probably not much we can do about that right now. And I'm somebody who wants to live in the present moment more. And this is also why I am so pro leveraging this as a force for good in the world, because there's so many that will not, but this is no different than the internet, right? There's always the Katie Couric, Bryant Gumbel video archive on there of them introducing the internet to the first time for the Today Show. And they're like, you don't want to put your credit card in there because someone might steal your identity. Well, AI is going to have their own version of this, but imagine if you were that company or person who said, you know what? I'm not really worried about this identity theft thing. I'm just going to start putting credit card processing on my website before everybody else does. To me, that's how I'm thinking about AI is, yes, I'm aware of the pitfalls, the obstacles of where there could be resistance in the future, but I'm also focused on what I can focus on right now.
Is it not possible for AI, let's do an AI version of Jamie, to duplicate her and the heart that she exhibits in a presentation?
1,000,000%. So two
Better
terms
not
for you.
be. Better
Uh,
not be.
yes. So we're going to call that a digital twin because that's what it's actually called. So, and Jamie, this is going to be super relevant for you in the world that we operate in from a business perspective. You will see digital twins. So Reed Hastings, who I believe was the founder of LinkedIn, he has a lot of commentary about digital twins. It's not a bad thing if Jamie, you and I are harnessing this to spread positivity and good and leadership and impact in others, right? You can say, wait a second, with team members and putting Jamie's heart and essence in there. Hey, I can't see a way where this can work because this is no different than if you were to, there's the AI voice robots. When you call something, do. Cool, press 1 for this, press 2 for this. Oh, well, we went from a human having to do this to an automated voice. And the same can sort of be true. We're just not used to the use case yet. And then the second part about her essence, 2 weeks ago, I created a new term called soul data. Your ability to infuse ChatGPT with your identity, vision, and values. Because remember this, there is one thing that AI does not have. Soul, S-O-U-L, right? It doesn't have a heart. It tell you anything. There's no heart in there. It's why we can start to hear or see AI written language, delves, unlocks, superpowers, tapestry, crafted, right? You're like, I don't use those words. I see them everywhere on LinkedIn. Oh, that's AI language. So one of the things that I realized in all of this, which I'm very good at, is the ability to take the essence of who you are and put that as the instructions for AI. So a very simple answer is, I have my 8 core values that are foundational to who I am. Copy, paste, throw that into ChatGPT. I've got my I am declarations. I am infinite love. I'm at peace with everything. I'm a masterpiece of health and strength. Boom, throw that into AI. Then I'll take my 1-year vision or my 3-year vision, put that into AI. Now it has the essence of who you and I are. So now it has our heartbeat, not this nothingness of a soulless AI.
Wow.
I need to take a nap.
Why? Because you're just so excited. It's just like,
I
wow.
drive by your house and I feel like the aura just exploding. Now I know why. Like, I mean, I feel,
It's floating off the ground?
it does. His house floats off the ground.
But so I love that you said this because here's the thing. It's actually a real thing. And you guys know this, that when you self-create yourself and your energy and your frequency, it legitimately creates this halo or this orb around you. Because remember, I'm still the same person that was dead broke living off his credit card when I was 21 years old. I'm still the same person who had no self-awareness and no growth mindset. So it's why I am this way. And it just is who I am because I know what it's like to live 30 years of my life not like this.
They were also stepping stones to get you to this destination.
Yeah, you didn't wake up like this. Like you said, it was like the small little goals, like from the 7 to the 657. I think what's really cool is that and we talked about this with somebody else. I think it might have been Jules or I forget who, but you don't have any more hours in your day than anybody else. You don't. You have the same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, same opportunities, and doing different things. And it's just you have chosen to harness them differently. And I think that's incredible. And I have the utmost respect for you for doing that. And it's amazing. And I am super excited to see what comes next for you and to be able to witness it not only online, but also in the streets.
Well, thank you very much. And Jamie, this is also why I am pro AI, right? Because we don't have to be romantic about this, but 2025 is going to be the year of AI agents. I just want you to hear the term. You don't have to understand what it is yet, but you've now heard the term AI agents. And what they are going to be is digital labor. Like if you had a team member who it doesn't just say, here's the knowledge, it goes, would you like me to execute this for you now? And it'll work from a very do this one task, do this one task, do this one task. So when they talk about AI is going to have a lot of companies lose jobs, it's because they're going to get rid of the low hanging fruit, inefficient stuff by automating that to free up more time to do the things that you want to do. So it's just better systems and business for each of us. And it's just a matter of crawl, walk, run for how we integrate it. Because I would much rather spend way more time with my family or talking with you guys or playing basketball than I would manually creating scopes of work or automated things that I can't do.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
A lot of food, big food for thought, big buffet for thought.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking time out of your very regimented day to spend time with us. We're very grateful that you did this. I think it's fascinating. Your story is incredible. Just the ups and the downs and the backwards and the forwards. And
Well, and the cycle is moving, the cycle of change is moving so quickly. We may have to revisit with you maybe within a couple of months.
yeah.
Yeah, there's, I believe, is one of the principles of Nike is our businesses change.
Yeah.
So for people like us, and I'll leave this with you guys. What can I do to help you guys?
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question. And I'll have to get back to you on that one. No, it's not even about, it's so funny. So someone asked me, like, well, why are you doing this podcast with your dad? What is it? And we do this. I get to spend time with him. And as you know, anything you do on the internet lives forever. It's not going anywhere. So we are not going to live forever, pretty long, but not forever.
In this podcast, I will.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just cool. And it's just really for us about, we get to just hear different stories and then we have different conversations. And then I share it, with my daughter and my husband. And it just is about, I believe in the butterfly effect, or the butterfly impact, and just telling different stories and sharing it and learning it. You're reading lots of books and not everyone gets that opportunity. So we have this conversation. We're going to share it with everyone out there to watch it and just to learn new things, because if not, you get stuck in the madness of the world.
And I've got to mirror something to you guys. I loved that I saw that this was a daughter dad podcast. And Jamie, for you, I can say this is a huge selling point. Like we're going to have to put it on the website, but it's a massive selling point, right? Because I can feel you. I can know about your values, that you're doing something with your dad. And that is something that not very many people do, right? And there's a resonance, there's a heart, there's a love, there's an energy, there's a connection, there's a difference in all of this. And I just wanted to recognize that in both of you. It's just such a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate that I get to do that. And I'm very grateful that I get to be with my dad. We're not always in the same room, but when we can be, we are. So it's just super nice. And thank you. That means a lot. It's really, this is just, life's too short not to take things by the moment and enjoy them and experience them. And so, yeah. So thank you for being here. We're due like a happy hour or another block party or something soon. So we'll have to make that happen soon. Everyone can chase your little man down the street.
Well, welcome to dad life.
Yeah. I appreciate you so much, Rob. Thank you. Thanks for being here. We're going to share this out there with the world, and you just keep making that difference and coming straight from your heart, because we can feel it and the world is ready for it.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And it was great to meet you guys.
My head is spinning. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. And if there's anything I can help you with, just reach out. I'd love to help.
You're amazing. Thanks, Rob. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. Like, are you just like, isn't it?
We've had two powerhouses this morning.
No, I mean, it's so interesting because there just shows you that there's so many different stories in the
Well,
world.
more than that, his situation just shows you sort of a personal growth, personal intention. You can progress through life dramatically. He's made incredible insteps.
Yeah. It's funny. I think we worked at Career Builder at the same time. So I worked do you remember I worked there? I worked there for like maybe 6 months and I hated it. I hated being on the phone. I hated selling like
Well,
that.
he's very driven though.
Yeah.
Those experiences were very valuable where he is today.
Yeah, but I just did not last. I was like, I want to be in with people. I don't want to be on the phone talking to people. I want to be in the room with them. And it was just so interesting that everyone finds their path and they find what that looks like. And it shows he didn't care about the money. He said, I'm walking away from $250,000 and I'm going to be starting from zero. And it's obviously worked for him. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So thanks, Dad.
Woo, good one today.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I really am lucky that we get to do this. So whether anyone never listens to it or not,
That's my girl.
and I'm your favorite, right? Say it out loud.
Look at my phone. It says Jamie with a favorite.
See, there you go. Ha ha, Candace and Tiffany. I'm his
No
favorite.
names.
Suck it. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's not. I'm wearing a shirt that says "Be kind." No, I'm the middle child. I need the attention.
Take that. Just switch it on.
All right, listener. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, that's his story. If you have a story you want to share, we'd love to hear from you, and we will talk to you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for tuning into today's What's Your Story podcast.
To learn more or share your story, go to jamiemarco.com. That's www.jamiemarco.com. And we will see you next time.